Hi, everyone. For the folks who are watching this back on YouTube, today is Tuesday, January 30th. This is the bi-weekly larger group meeting where today we're going to focus on some of the statements for institutional benefits, some of the existing proposals, both grant and conference, which have been written, little bit of work on the DPID working group, and then we have a couple interesting participants today who have feedback or commentary questions on what's being built or potential ideas on what can be built. So that is going to be the core of our call today. So with that being said, Andre, how do we want to get things started?
Yeah, I think we could just proceed with the agenda and to see something on the statement of benefits because we need just the ideas. The document is now blank and we can just have a little discussion. It's around 10 minutes about how it should be written.
Wonderful. So yeah, we can definitely throw the link to the agenda in chat. Since Andre is sharing screen, I'll go ahead and do that.
Thank you.
And that being said, a little bit of context for those who may not necessarily have gotten the chance to keep up with everything that's been happening as this working group tends to move fast. The idea behind the statement of benefits is that I think this came from EUCOMES all around the idea of kind of selling DPID to those in more institutional positions. One of the things that we're going to need as an artifact is a clear and concise one-pager, which details both the social and technical benefits, I guess with more of a focus on the technical, for someone in an institution of experimenting with decentralized persistent identifiers. So that is what this statement of benefits document is. And in the background, I am finding the agenda and posting it on here. So give me just a second. All righty. I've got the link and this is coming on chat in just a second. Oh, Andre's already got it.
Yeah, okay, that's we have also Lisa, who is a painter who is interested in artwork identification.
Mhm.
Yes, so yeah, let me please throw a link on the chat to the benefit statement because we have now this document blank. Should not the benefits also include those of science, ethic, law, policy, governance? Francis, could you please tell us a bit more about this? What do you intend to write or to propose?
Now you challenge me. I think in the first place there should be scientific benefits. In other words, the better how we structure and organize our data and able to, let's say, give some the identification should also give some sense of integrity to the data and reliability as well. And I think this is also very important for questions of governance, which would include ethics, law, policy, things like that. And I also think that these are, let's say, rhetorical interest as well, because from my perspective as somebody kind of outside this technical world, this is what's most driving, let's say, data policy in most places in the world, is this idea of governance, this idea of reliability and things like that. So, and that's as much as I can say without revealing even more ignorance.
Okay, so you think that it is best to made it at the first place for the statement of benefits, yes?
Yeah, I think it could be technical as well. I mean, that's scientific and so forth. And I think it should be done in the way that's of orders of importance, maybe to the working group in the first place, but of order to importance to what benefits that this brings to our use of data.
Yeah, it makes
And I
sense.
think we in the background should also, sorry, I'm just joining the group, I should be quiet, but in the background should also keep in mind that AI, the discussion on AI is more and more driving the discussion on data. So we have to keep this also in mind. And
Yeah, I mean, for the statement of benefits could be probably more in the terms of governance over the AI, because it's actually it's more about the access control and the things related to the data set, I guess. Am I right?
yeah, I think it's access control. It's also use. It's also the implications of the data, or how the communication of the data, how the data is communicated, and things like this. So I think what you want to show is you provide a higher level of integrity and reliability within data sets by using these instruments.
Yeah, it makes sense. And well, can I ask you to write a bit in our document about this? Do you have any time? Do you wish to participate in?
Yeah, I have more wishes than time, but I'll try to do something. Thank you.
Okay,
So
thanks to you.
it brings up an interesting point, Francis. I think the reasoning for this statement of benefits actually ties back into one of the original goals in the prospectus that you suggested we write. And by the way, thank you for that suggestion. It's I think done wonders. Around the idea of a small, lightweight proof of concept around data sharing, institutional sovereignty, where we could potentially get a couple institutions, not hundreds of them, but a dozen or so, who all implement some version of a stack supporting decentralized persistent identifiers. And I think it's described pretty well in the prospectus, but the idea would be one interface is used to showcase data stored across a variety of different repositories. So part of what this is the sales pitch for doing that. Who do you think would be the right group to approach in terms of getting institutions to adopt such a small proof of concept? And I can post the link to the proof of concept in the chat as well. But Andre, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of where we're going with this, right?
Yes.
So this is the link to the proof of concept. Hi, Dr. Pritchard. Just a quick update as an aside. Dr. Pritchard, the proposal that you helped us write for the FDO forum did get accepted. So we will be presenting at FDO Forum 2024 in Berlin. So thank you for all of your help with that. Got wonderful feedback from reviewers. So we're excited to continue working on that.
Thank you, Eric, and apologies to everybody for being late. So go ahead and go on, and maybe hopefully you'll talk about that paper later.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the idea being ultimately what we want to do with this statement of benefits is try and drive more of the reasoning behind this proof of concept that I just linked in the doc itself. So Francis, to ask a question, who do you think would be the right person in a given institution to approach with a proof of concept of this type? Something small, symbolic, doesn't require any additional funding or man hours. It can be done in less than an hour or so. Lynn, I'm sorry, I keep saying Line. Yeah, so something small, symbolic, that doesn't require any additional man hours and is more intended to showcase a desire for data sovereignty.
Isn't not to answer the question, but isn't the first interest to demonstrate this within some kind of project where you can show its utility. So
it's,
if you have, yep, sorry.
oh no, please, by all means, continue.
No, I think I'll get myself in trouble if I keep going. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
There are a couple different ways that we can go about it. The idea of provenance and AI through granular persistent identification and machine actionability is probably best shown through one large project where additional version histories, timestamps of data, things along those lines can contribute to more trustworthy information. But there are other benefits to what's being built here. And one of the ones that we as a working group are very passionate about is the idea of institutional sovereignty and data sharing and avoiding vendor lock-in by having multiple copies of data stored across a wider network. So it's very possible that we should be taking a different approach to the POC as a whole. But I think, yeah, well, if I say any more, I'll get myself in trouble. So.
Yeah, but I'll stop. There's other people, but I agree with you because I think what really attracted me to this when I was in Salzburg was this idea that there's a kind of honesty here. There's a kind of rigor here, a reliability here, where if it's distributed, you have a greater sense of authentication and authenticity as well. If I'm right. So I'll just tell you what. So one of my selfish reasons for coming and wanting to listen to you is because, like, we tried to do a project on data in times of crises. So using data for disaster situations or conflict situations or so, and the importance of doing that, or earthquakes or something like that. So one of the things that's really important in this is to have data reliability, to have data integrity. And so your identifiers, it would seem to me, also have to be reliable. And if you want, which persistence would also have that, but also the sense that it's distributed. This seems to me to allow institutional control, as you say, while also allowing for data sharing in a reliable framework. And I'm just repeating myself. Yeah.
So it's just you mean just the redundancy out of the box? Am I right?
I'm thinking more of accountancy.
Let's say the first advantage of redundancy. So sharing, for example, the resolution, you are sharing also the data and caching the data.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And you're at the same time you're guaranteeing the integrity of the data.
Yeah. So do you think that it will be also a benefit? And so just to let's say to see on which place it should be placed in our statement. So what should be the first? What should be the next? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, Andre, I think it's been us and Francis going back and forth for a little bit. I would love to open the conversation up to anyone else in the group who has some of these institutional benefits and I guess reasonings as to why any of these given POCs can and should be adopted by institutional stakeholders.
Yeah. Okay, so it's just need to be discussed separately, right?
I thought Lynn wanted to say something and I interrupted her. No.
Yeah, so it's more like a comment than I agree with pretty much everything that Francis is saying about the need for I mean, in my world, we call that scientific use cases. So they're not just little use cases that you use for developing software, but, you know, a broader scientific need for this. And so here it could be like a broader institutional need, a study, really. So in my world, that's not necessarily needed because they want to control everything. So they, you know, they would want to have their own, and I haven't seen it yet, but they would want potentially to have their own PID office issuing PIDs. So, like for instance, we have we issue DOIs for papers and publications, but you know, there's a lot of institutions out there, like universities, research institutes, who do not have these resources. And I think that for them, it would be tremendously helpful to have this type of, you know, decentralized IDs, so that they indeed do not rely on like just one entity, and therefore they can, you know, there's more of the, not just a transparency, but also redundance that makes it possible that if one thing goes away, like for instance, I think Perl DOIs went away. Yeah, and so I think it would be helpful to have like maybe an institutional use case, or have one. I mean, it might be you know, it's not something that you can do overnight. I mean, it needs partners, it needs people who are willing to try it out. But I think that would be helpful.
Yes, so it seems we have a really diverse infrastructure. So for someone, the sovereignty is more important, and for someone, the redundancy and reliability more important. And we cannot define, I guess, the correlation between the amount of produced data and this requirement. So it should be, let's say, more generalized point in the statement of benefits, I guess.
Yes, and also it's like all these institutions that, you know, it was the same with repositories and data management plan and things like that. It's you know, it addresses the long tail of science. That's what they call the long tail of science, which is, you know, a lot of small institutions, but many of them that produce very interesting research and need to be supported, but who are institutions that do not have the means to, you know, set up, or do not want to set up PID system.
Yeah. We have questions from Francis and Slava. Francis, please go ahead.
No, Slava was first. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, Slava, please go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to express my opinion about this topic, because I'm from Dutch institution, and we are quite big in Europe, and and we are providing this kind of services for persistent identification for researchers. So we have Dutch academic community, and also we do the same for the whole Europe. So we are helping to establish this kind of services, and we're building AI services also. So what I wanted to stress, you should really separate data and metadata, because I think use case you're discussing now is about metadata records. It's about data sets, metadata description. And if you think about data, it's a completely different story. And if you want to put data in blockchain, it's not feasible right now, because you don't have, nobody has enough resources. So I think this separation should be discussed first, where you want to go, in which direction. And I agree, like blockchain kind of technology can really bring sustainability to data, but it will require even more resources. And in the same time, if you think about metadata, this is what we can provide almost out of the box with DPID. So we can just ask them to read documentation and assign PDIDs to any kind of materials, to data sets, to papers, to any kind of research stuff, right? And another perspective that you should also think about. So we are working with Harvard University, for example, and they're collecting data sets, and this is really big collection. So in total, we have more than 100 repositories in production in all continents, and I think it's about approximately 500,000 data sets already in the network. All of them have persistent identifier DOI. Some of them have also DIs for files. However, if we'll apply artificial intelligence and we will start to link all this stuff together, it will be changing everything. So you need to think about another persistent identifier, for example, for data sets which will be enriched with semantics, where you can find more information and more information will be linked. For example, if you have data set from NASA, you can link all other papers from around the world mentioning this data set, so somehow having a relationship with it. And this is where decentralized identifier can be very useful. Okay, so
yeah. Yeah, thank you. It makes sense. And can you please participate a bit in the ideation about the statement of benefits and write this there or in the notes to the agenda of for today, and then we could integrate it.
Also, I saw where Chris looked like he was trying to say something in the middle of that. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that and ideally it's both for data and metadata. And the reason we can do that is because we anchor hashes. So in essence, we can have any arbitrarily sized object on the network, and that's fine as long as there's storage capacity that is devoted to mirroring the data objects on the network, right? So in principle, we can. It's not a. Let's say it's a question of the capacity that will be placed on the network to safeguard the objects that are indexed by DPIDs, right? So it can really, really scale for that. But of course, it's a matter of capacity.
Yeah, now, thank you. Francis, please go ahead.
No, I want to thank Slava and also now Christopher for clarifying what I didn't understand so well in the chat. Makes very good sense what Slava says, and also Christopher. I wanted to just say something else, maybe more generally, but it seems also a discussion somewhere about control of data, ownership of data to a certain extent as well. And also this idea of maybe some kind of different approaches between distributed data and data sovereignty. But I think if we can show perhaps that data sovereignty is not necessarily affected by distribution and maybe even increased through distributed ledgers, that this could be a strong argument here, if that could be shown. That the institutions could find themselves in a more reliable position by using this approach.
To have their own ledgers.
By having, by essentially benefiting from these properties, right? But I think the question, I think the question I think a lot is about how we define data sovereignty, right? So this is something I'm a little bit curious, right? I'd love to know how people at institutions think about this concept of data sovereignty and how they define it internally. For example, some of the labels can be a little bit non-trivial to solve. For example, the rights retention movement in open access, they're actually not interested in rights retention per se, like all copyright reserved, right? They're interested in saying, no, CC BY, right? Creative Commons. So the retention is the absence of a capture of a right, right? So I'm wondering if there's similar logic around data sovereignty, or perhaps if it's really defined in the sense of access control and tracking of reuse, right? So is it, or is it defined in terms of not having reliance on an external service provider like a cloud system provider like AWS, right? So I'm like very curious about understanding or digging deep into this notion of institutional data sovereignty.
Yeah, just on that, Christopher, there's also, a huge movement in Europe when we look at it from our perspective, let's say more academia or so, we're always talking about open science and so forth. But if you go down the street to Brussels and you listen to what's going on at the Commission, I mean, 80 or 90% of the discussion is about sovereign clouds for industry. And I think we have to be able to align ourselves with this too. In other words, we have to be able to because this is where the larger data sets are going to be, and where we also need access as well, so forth. So we have to be able to make the argument that this distributed approach benefits both those who want sovereign control over their data, let's say, but also those who want to have a more open platform. And that this same, let's say, this same instrument can provide a set of benefits to both kinds of approaches, to both interests.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
And I think we can achieve this. And it all depends, it all hinges on how this concept of data sovereignty is defined. Or
yeah, and we should also to think about how to implement it in the statement of benefits and the vision, because well, for now, for example, I for probably next 2 weeks will not be able to participate, so we need assistance. I mean, in the writing of statement of benefits.
Yeah, I think the statement of benefits itself is probably going to take a little while longer, and hopefully include some more async communication where folks can add to the doc and edit as need be. But I think we can at least continue on with this for a little bit. So it seems like at this point, we have some good conversation around data provenance, data security, data integrity, some of the concepts around data sovereignty or sovereign clouds, and how DPIDs can facilitate both the redundancy of data and the sovereignty of data simultaneously. So that could be a good direction for this, if I'm understanding it correctly. Francis, would you mind correcting me if I was wrong there?
We cannot hear Francis.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's
I'm thinking we, for this document, if I think about the structure in my mind, I think we need to have what maybe Andre needs to do something on the definition, and then something from Slava about this, the advantages and the uses of distribution together with Christopher there. And then I think we'll probably have 90% of it, you know. I think we have to describe the nuts and bolts. And then from there, we can describe benefits.
Yeah, well, I can agree with this, and I mean, just we need some assistance to provide the versions, the phrasing, and then a bit later we'll compile it, right? So,
and can someone explain something about the centralized artwork identification and provenance project?
we have Linda here.
Okay. I can explain my point of view because I'm coming back to AI, and what we do now, we are generating control vocabularies. So I actually found a way to decompress large language models and get all knowledge back in the knowledge graph. So I started to generate control vocabularies on any topic, and I also kind of getting a summary of every concept in control vocabulary, and I'm getting all relationships more or less in a human readable way. And I'm also interested to assign persistent identifiers like DIDs to this. So is it something that could be also shared between us and decentralized artwork identification?
Well, I guess so. Now we are on the stage of development of trust model and data model. So after the discussion today, we can see, and I guess yeah, there is something to share. Well, now I have a question. Would you like more to complete with the conferences and grants, or to come to decentralized artwork identification, make a short, brief presentation, brief introduction from Linda, and then go to the conferences and grants? What do you think?
And what about this document that was just shared, the data tags from Dataverse? Is that relevant right away? Sorry.
Something that may come in a little bit later, as I think that there's probably a little bit of work on SlavaZen kind of tying some of these Dataverse concepts back into DPID. May not be the right starting point for discussion today. Andre, my vote would be the Linda presentation, and we can maybe send out some of the grants and conference proposals async, as these have to be submitted either today or tomorrow anyway. So there's a good chance that where it's at is where it's at.
Okay,
I agree with everyone. If I could just say though, sorry, one thing, I don't want to lose what Slava just said. I find that's incredible. He made it sound like it's so easy. He's just doing it over dinner at night or something. But it would be really interesting, like to get a paragraph or something on what that project is. That would be interesting. Sorry for that, and then I'll stop.
Is this actually, and Slava, I've been wondering this for a little while, would you be open to doing just a full, more formal presentation on some of your work with DIDs for semantic drift in a different session? Because it sounds like this is an entire topic of its own.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I did it a lot of times already in Europe.
So could we plan it for the next bi-weekly meeting?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Okay, so I will write it down in the next agenda. And now maybe I will share it in the screen. The artwork identification will come for Linda. What do you think?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay, Linda, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Hi,
Okay.
everybody.
Yeah, so let me please briefly introduce you. So here we are hearing Linda Simeone from Trieste, the professional gallerist and enthusiast of identification and hybrid distribution in the world of professional art photography. So we have now on the screen our data model and trust model for let's say the use case proposal for decentralized artwork identification for hybrid distribution. So Linda, can you briefly introduce your thoughts about this?
Yes. So I've prepared a model of trust that it will contains all what I think that will be important for the artist. Yeah. So yeah. I think that so there are not a technical
not a technical aspect more.
Yes, because I really I want to focus about all what the people called think that could be important for that. Okay, so I think all the people need about their certificate. Okay, so they need absolutely so. What I write, professionalism and competence, transparency and clarity. So the free participation. The protection of intellectual property. So absolutely the confidentiality and securities and uniqueness about the certification. So there are all the points that I think that an artist really need for the photos or for the project. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for my English. I'm I wrote about all the points. I think that you can read all of that. So if there is many questions, I'm here.
Okay, so just because we had only a little discussion about this, I am now dropping the link to the documents to the chat. So you can read it and see and share your thoughts. I think in the terms Linda just tried to explain, and in the terms of data model we have defined before, we have around 80, 85, 90% of already implemented things. Eric, what do you think? Did you have a look on this?
So I've had a brief look on it, and I do agree. I think we have a large portion of what is going to be needed to actually implement this. I think it's also a very interesting project in the idea that it takes us a little bit outside of academia and can be done on a shorter time frame than what would be possible with more academic institutions. So to me, this seems like a well-aligned use case that can be low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, and the thing that we should also keep here in mind that this identification and concept would be strongly connected with legal aspects and the social contracts anyhow, because you know, in terms of art, Linda, please correct me if I'm wrong, but probably the legal aspect will be the main thing the society will obtain from this decentralized artwork identification, right?
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Right.
But do you think that it is possible in the terms of current state of the market and the legislation about the artworks, for example, in Italy? Do you think it is possible?
So I think in Italy it's so difficult. So I don't know. It could be. So we could try. I don't know because I don't know the legal the legacy rules. Okay, about this thing.
Yeah, the legislation.
I don't know.
Yeah. So we have Andrei here, who is a lawyer, and Andrei, can you share some thoughts about the possibility of this in the context of European legislation?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Now I read the paper of the project, and I need some time for the answer on your question.
Okay, so you can just a bit later to connect
Yes,
to Mattermost instance.
yes.
Well,
Yes, but it's my first time, and I have to read more information.
Okay, so then we can then share a bit later the thoughts. Thank you.
Yes. Thank
Andrei,
you for
just two thoughts here. Would not it be the first purpose of this project not to let's say have legal conformity, but to have authenticity for the photographs? Is that not what's being sought in the first place, that we can identify these and authenticate the photographs?
To authenticate, you mean in terms of access control or in terms of retaining an ownership and authenticity of the work?
Yes. Second one, yeah. And maybe the first one too, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess we have already implemented this in the data model because we are setting here the sources and authorized digital copies of the work.
Right. Yeah, no, I just want to stress that this is the first interest, not the legal interest, if that's correct.
Yeah, from my point of view, it is correct.
Yeah, and then the second, and maybe Lisa wants to say, maybe the second way to address the legal context is maybe through a set of tags or something that can be that each identifier can be tagged in order to provide the legal framework or the legal considerations that need to be taken into account.
Yeah. So, but I guess for now it's a problem. Its problem requires more work on it. Linda, Andrei, do you have any thoughts about it?
No, no, not for now.
Okay.
Not now, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, could we now complete with this brief introduction, and let me, before jumping to the conferences and grants, please let me have a little introduction about today, because I occasionally connected to the IPFS working group webinar, because we have an IPFS as an underlying technology. And I made a little sneak peek about our project and our working group. So we have now the attention from the leading developers of a protocol of IPFS, and they have the context of persistent identification in their agenda. So now we can establish a more, even in the closer contact. Eric, do you have a contact with Aidin from IPFS Protocol Labs?
If I have a contact with Aiden specifically, we do have some solid connections with Protocol Labs and the larger Filecoin Foundation Filecoin ecosystem. So upcoming, I think around a month from now, in what is it? Late February, early March, we are going to be hosting a joint hackathon with some members of the Protocol Labs team on some of the more underlying technology. So that should be a good way to continue to get IPFS developers engaged. But it's also an interesting point that you bring up, because ultimately, while I think this DPID working group is more academic in nature, there's a lot of benefit that can be gained from bringing folks that are not true academics, but have extensive development experience on the decentralized web into discussions here. So kind of making this more of a forum for communication between the two groups could be an interesting way to go. Thank you for doing this, by the way. That's a wonderful initiative to have taken on, and I'm glad to see it on their agenda.
Yeah, so we have now this, and let's see to which will it lead. Okay, let's now go to the conferences and grants, and the first point is an NLnet grant. Eric, can you share your screen and to say about something about the current state of the application, or do you want me to?
Sure. Yeah, if
Okay.
you can share the screen, then I'll talk through it.
Okay, so I'm stopping the screen.
Alrighty, then I will pull this up. So for reference, and this is, I guess, the last 15 minutes of the call, we'll go over some of this work that's already been done. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, yes, we can see.
Alrighty, so ultimately, I think it's important to note that pretty much everything comes back to the prospectus. So starting off with this one high-level document that hopefully folks are familiar with by this point, we had a couple different sought outcomes that we wanted to work towards. So it was a single, simple success story. We spent the first 30 minutes of today's call working on this, the statement of benefits. And I guess the last 15 minutes of this call is focused on this coordinated proposal submission. So ultimately, what we as a working group are kind of striving towards is the idea of having a modular kind of knowledge management repository for grant and conference proposal submissions, that as people continue to bring up new and innovative ideas for ways that this technology can be used. For example, a lot of what Slav is talking about with semantic and conceptual drift within DIDs, a lot of what Linda's talking about with decentralized artwork identification. we can make it easy for people to copy paste information into a variety of grant proposals. So the NGI the NGI Zero Core grant is our first example, at least we think, of how this can be done. So the NGI, the Next Generation Internet Initiative, has a grant that closes tomorrow, which is all around moving the internet forward. So there's a lot of interesting context here, but the gist is they want to fund research and development for technologies that help to democratize the internet and kind of bring it back to some of the earlier visions of what it was, more of a digital commons with technological building blocks that create more reliable infrastructure. So within that, we thought that this was a good first grant for us to write because it's very well aligned with the mission and vision of what we're doing as a group. It is a fairly small scale grant. So the first iteration can be $50,000 maximum, and then subsequent iterations can continue to grow in size, but the total limit of what can be requested is 500,000 euros. So it's not something that's going to completely make or break, but it's enough money for us to fund small DPID development, a couple different conference proposals and the travel funds for that, and just generally get a win under our belt. So with that being said, the gist of what we're actually working towards in this conference proposal, and if someone, I guess someone has probably already put this link in chat, the gist of what we're looking for is a small support DPID implementable stack, where in a simple fashion, someone can go into a GitHub repository, download a DPID service, some kind of standardized configuration with a series of cron jobs that run in the background that let them automatically pin IPFS content on the DPID network. So replicate, whether it's metadata, whether it's data itself, you can donate your storage to the DPID system. And what we're trying to achieve with this is the beginnings of a more robust and scalable infrastructure that is democratized to allow for community participation. So that's the basis of this grant. There are a couple other instances of, systems or of,
sorry, Eric, I see a request from Francis to increase the scale on your screen.
Yes,
Please
of
do.
course. Of course. Is this better? Cool.
Yes, I
Thank you.
guess.
So yeah, the main questions that were here, what are the expected outcomes? The expected outcomes are a out-of-the-box implementation of voluntary participation for data storage in the DPID network. So allowing folks like myself and Andre to add any storage capacity that we so desire to supporting DPID, in addition to any institutions that want to be a part of it. In terms of the, relevant contributions, we mentioned DeSci Foundation, some of Andre's work on the Expanse project, some of Slava's work around Dataverse. Then budgeting, we went for the full $50,000. The scope of this was between 5 and 50. So we opted for the higher end, said 25,000 for research and development, 10,000 for technical advising and software documentation, and then another 15K for dissemination and promotion, with the understanding that a huge part of what needs to be done in garnering network effects is promotion and dissemination. The actual technical implementation of this should not be overly challenging and was scoped accordingly. So it goes on from that to detail exactly why we're doing this and what's needed to do this. But yeah, for those of you who haven't seen, I'm assuming someone has posted the proposal in chat. Does anyone have thoughts or comments around this first grant proposal that we'll be submitting?
Yeah, I think it's really smart and really well done. Yeah, and I think the cost distribution is very good too, especially because the funder, the grant provider will want the exposure as well. I think 15,000 is It's not a lot of money, and it's for dissemination exploitation, and it's really key too. Yeah, looks really nice, really nicely written too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's a very good chance that we don't use some of the money on the other sides. Once again, this was purposefully implemented to be a small and feasible technical implementation. So if we have extra money, every dime of that goes into proof of concept, promotion, dissemination. Also, that's a really good point around the funder wanting to publicize. So thank you for that. That did not factor into my calculations this time, but definitely will in the future. Okay, well, the submission on this is due tomorrow. So I'm probably going to submit today unless anyone has strong objections to this. Going once, going twice, sold. So I will submit this after the meeting. And that is our first grant proposal. But coming back to what I was talking about around the prospectus, is a modular knowledge management stack. So one of the things that's going to be on my plate for the next week or so with some of the other more active members on the Mattermost is thinking about how we take some of the wording and the terminology from these grant proposals as we're writing them and turn them into paragraph level drag and drop style content so that people can mix and match information from previous writings into easy, seamless proposals down the road. I mean, ultimately, we're probably going to see somewhere around a 10% acceptance rate for any of these grants. So it's good for us to be able to submit as many as we can in as efficient of a manner as we can. So that's kind of the last thing to add to this is it has to tie back into the prospectus. So with that being said, seems like there's not a whole lot of additional commentary here. I'll submit it tomorrow and thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Just Eric and Andre, who will administer the grant?
The DSI Foundation.
Oh, okay. You have a foundation for it. Then. Okay, good. Yeah. It's a terrible thing to have to administer a grant. So good. If there's people willing to do that, that's really good.
Slava, please.
Yeah, just a small comment from me. So I was involved in preparation of quite a lot of proposals, and I think you should also make some kind of separation from persistent identifiers being used in academia at the moment and decentralized persistent identifier. So it should be considered as a more complementary solution than replacement, because otherwise it will decrease chances to get funding.
Okay, so it's kind of formulation.
Yeah, so you usually when they hear about something decentralized, especially in European Union, so everything should be more or less centralized and under control. And when we're speaking about decentralized solutions, it's really sometimes it scares people. So you should really put all benefits clearly in the proposal. Why you need this?
I mean, we can retailer some of the initial statement of benefits to be more focused around machine actionability, the problems upcoming with AI, some of the
this is exactly what I mean. So we already foresee some challenges coming with AI, where AI will be used to do semantic enrichment and basically to create synthetic data and to this kind of stuff. So it's more for future, not for current data landscape. This is where you can rephrase everything and kind of prepare everything for future developments. You see the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think we need to shift our wording just generally as a working group to be more around the challenges for AI. One benefit that I would love to hear y'all's take on in the last few minutes that I've been thinking about a lot recently, but would be interested to know if it resonates, is the idea of granular persistent identification as a means of more granular metric creation. So I know metrics for fair and open science has been a constant point of conversation. And essentially, any persistent identifier system for research is just a distributed information management system. So by having more granular information management, we can build more granular metrics. And I've seen the emergence of open science metrics. For example, has someone shared their data? Just is it available generally? Yes, no. With more granular information, if we could look at the code in a given repository associated with the research project, we can then go back and say, is every data set that was imported in this piece of code also associated with the persistent identifier itself, as an example? So by making this information machine actionable, we can create more granular and targeted metrics for impact itself. Is that something that resonates, or is it not with the current line of conversation as we see it today?
So Eric, I just put something in the chat. We're going to start very shortly this COARA, the Coalition for the Advancement of Research Assessment Working Group, on the assessment of data and AI. And I don't know how you did it, but you just said better in 3 minutes the whole proposal that we made and to this. This is exactly what we need, these metrics and this kind of system. So yeah, I'm very happy I came here today. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind, Francis.
And Eric, just another comment from me. So you can think about this topic also is about as a kind of change of ownership, because you have human created data and curated data set, and suddenly there is AI coming, and AI is being using this data to link other data sets from human and produce new data set. So you are getting creative artifact, semantic artifact, and this is where you need to assign something like DPID. Because the AI will make no sense, you know, the AI should be assigned to something that human created.
Slava, I need your mind on the Mattermost on a daily basis, please. That's another really good point. Oh God, I've got 24 hours to add all of this into the submission draft.
Okay.
Well, I see where we're almost at time. Does anyone else have thoughts that they'd like to provide or questions that they'd like to ask in the next 30 seconds?
Well, only I would ask for a green light to the IFAC AMEST article draft. I placed a link to the chat, and if no one has doubts, then I would just send it today to the conference, because the deadline is tomorrow.
Nope, good with me.
Okay, so I will send it to the conference and place a report on the agenda. Then it will be the planning for the next meeting. It should be around 14th or 16th, from 13th to 15th of February. And I guess it will be good. Then I will place a doodle poll again.
That sounds fantastic. And Andre, we've gotten a lot more participation in time zones that accommodate the US. So it may be good for us to continue on with that if it's not too burdensome on our European colleagues.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Yeah.
And we've gotten quite a bit of participation in time zones that are more amicable to the US. So if we can continue with that, it might be nice if it's okay with our European colleagues.
Yeah, this wasn't too late.
Okay.
For me too. So it's a good time. Probably we should concentrate on the times like that from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on European time. It will be really useful.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we're already a minute over. So Andre, I'll send you the meeting afterwards so you can put it up on YouTube. And thank you to everyone for joining.
Thank you everyone. And yes, see you on the next meeting, and on Mattermost for sure.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you,
Yep,
Eric.
thanks.
Everyone.
See you.
Alrighty.